All right, welcome everybody to our channel. Thank you for joining us today. We are here at the Burns 1876 store in Salina. So there might be a little bit of background noise, but we are here with Zach Holyoak. He is a part of the saddle shop as well as a teacher on Illume, the learning platform. Thank you for joining us here today.
Happy to be here. Happy to chit chat.
I know that there is quite a history of leatherwork in your family, but how did it start for you, and how did you get to being at Burns?
So I remember from just thinking about it, I've been in the saddle shop with my grandpa probably ever since I was born. My first interest came when I was 13. I remember going down to St. George and getting scraps from my grandpa, and one Christmas I just ended up with a couple rolls of leather and a tandy kit. And so ever since then I've been messing around and, talked to him a little bit through the years and just doing little projects. And so today, looking back, that's probably honestly the thing I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I knew it when I was 13.
I think a lot of people can say that their interest started with a tandy kit. It's iconic, but 13 years old. Tell me about your grandpa's shop and because you guys have a family legacy. You're in the saddle shop. Your dad is in the boot shop, and your grandfather ran his own shop. So tell me what that's like, and how that passion developed.
Yeah. So starting out with like grandpa, couldn't tell you what age, but I remember it was before my father was born, and he's almost 60 now. Is when he was doing leather work. He did a lot of stuff down in the basement of the house. Working that way, and then he ended up with a shop on Main Street in St. George, and then from there he just ran a one-man shop for I would say 50-60 years. But other than that, like I said, I would go over, spend time during the summer when I lived down there with him. My dad, he did a little bit but not a lot. He was more on the mechanic side of the whole ordeal. But between all the grandkids and the kids, it would be me and my cousin that was really spending the time there. So that's kind of how it was. And, I'm really passionate about building things and, building a product that looks good and working with my hands. So it was a no-brainer, So that's where I wanted to be all the time. And
instead of working with your grandpa, you work with Burns.
Yep.
And where did you start in that? Did you just walk into the shop one day, and how did that all come to be?
So at the time I was working at Tractor Supply, kind of in that lane, and I got a phone call one day and said, "Hey, Matt wants to meet with you." And I was like, "Okay, perfect. It's my day off." Come down and interviewed, and 2 weeks later I started at Burns. They stuck me right in seats here at the basement here at the store, and I had it down and learned in probably, I would say, in 2 weeks, because the guy who was training me was leaving. And so I had it he was leaving. I picked it up. I had a little bit of help from Trevor through the way, on the inlays and stuff like that. And that's where that all started. After I got really proficient in seats, I started taking on other jobs, learning groundwork, learning the parts, back cinches, all that stuff. Just so when I was done with my seats, I knew more. So, and now today, being foreman over the barrel line, I can do every step in the line. I think there's 6 spots in the line.
There's six.
I think, yeah, we've broken it up.
All 6 of them.
Yep, I'm pretty sure there's 6. You have your cut, your groundwork, your skirts, your seats, and oil and button up. And actually it's 5, sorry. But yeah, anywhere in that shop where we need help, I can be there. And also on the other side of it with small leather goods too, building back cinches, your breast collars, head stalls, all that.
So what was that like? Kind of mind blowing when you say I got interviewed, I started, and 2 weeks later it was adios, good luck.
Yeah.
Was that nerve wracking?
That was very nerve wracking.
Yeah.
And because there for a while I knew about leather, but I didn't know much about it, right? And I didn't know, like from 13 to I think it was 22, I was just playing around and whatever I could find. So being dropped in that situation, it was really nerve wracking, and it was really a lot to take in. But I mean, after you get going with it and when you have a passion for it, it seems like it comes in natural for you, you know? So
If you got thrown into the deep end, literally, and then you learned each of the spots and now you're the foreman, what has been the biggest success and the biggest challenge during that time for you?
that's a good one. That's a very good question.
Right.
A challenge would be, learning the whole aspect of it. I mean, beforehand, I was in kind of a leadership role through Tractor Supply, but nothing quite like this. But the biggest challenge is, just trying to figure out how things go and your systems and stuff like that, and building relationships with the people and getting to where you guys can work really close together. And it's almost like it's a really well-oiled machine. Everybody knows what's going on and what needs to happen, So that was a big challenge. The biggest success is probably when it finally, clicked and we all worked really well. And people wanting to do the same thing. You have people that want to learn how to do groundwork when they do skirts or things like that, and you're the one that's helping them because you've been in that situation before, and it's really satisfying to teach somebody and help them move through their process too. So
that's great. On a personal level, what has been your biggest success during this? What is something that you've done that is memorable to you?
So my biggest success in the 5 years that I've been here with Burns, it was year 3, and we were up in the new shop and we were getting ready for Sheridan. And Trevor asked me, he says, well, why didn't you do something or a saddle for Sheridan? And I says, well, I don't know. I'm not very confident. And I just didn't have a tree. Well, Matt overheard this conversation and he come over and walked over and put a tree on my bench. He says, you have 2 weeks till the show. So
that's very Matt.
Me being the person that I am, I took on that challenge. I would work my 10-hour days. I would stay till 6 in the morning at the shop, slept in my truck a few times to come back in and work on my saddle. I had that saddle done in 2 weeks, loaded it on the trailer, and I didn't go to Sheridan that year with them. But I remember it was Saturday morning. I had 4 phone calls and probably 5 text messages. And I opened up Matt's, and there was my saddle with a 3rd place ribbon on it.
No kidding.
So first saddle ever built, took 3rd in the world that year. So that was probably the biggest accomplishment. And now that's something I love to do. Can't get away from, building and going to Sheridan. So
that was 2 years ago.
Yep.
Since then, how many saddles have you built yourself? Start to finish.
Start to finish, including the Sheridans. There's 3. Couldn't tell you how many barrel saddles I've done. Probably, I don't even want to guess. That's a big number. I haven't been keeping track, but on that side of it, it would be 3, working on 4 or 5 this year.
There's a lot of anxiety around competition. And I think that sounds like you weren't getting enough sleep to worry about competition that first time.
Yeah.
But since then, I know you've done a few competitions in various shows. To the people that are nervous, both for the competition, probably for the feedback, what are your recommendations? How do you deal with the critiquing and the praise? Because I know people struggle with both.
Yeah.
What is your advice there?
So for me, doing stuff like that, in my aspect, in my eyes of it, I'm not going to, I don't want to win every year, Yeah. The biggest thing is the constructive criticism around it. You don't grow if you don't have any constructive criticism. And if you have the mindset that I'm going to go and win every year, then I feel like you won't, succeed. So when you do that, the nerve-wracking does sit in because you do want to do good, but on the other hand, it's the intake from all that is really what matters in it all. So that's what going to the shows is fine, and it's a lot of fun, but the feedback and the critique from other people like that's their showing, or your peers that's helping you do that, that's really what's important about that. So it's nothing to be really nervous about. I had my luck on the 3rd year, and I haven't placed since, but I've built a better saddle every year just because of that, criticism from other people and the praise and stuff. So
don't take it personal, but take it as a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Take it as a learning experience. So challenge yourself, push yourself, and take it all the way.
So during this process, you've gotten feedback from incredible judges that have their own careers and things. But as a whole, who do you look up to throughout these 5 years? Who have you looked up to? I know your grandfather's one of them, and your dad does a lot of great work. But who in the industry do you look up to? Who do you go to when you have problems that you don't know how to solve?
Usually it would be my peers or coworkers around me. So I've got a lot of feedback from Trevor and Matt, through the last 5 years, because they're, the ones that they're there and they have more time in the saddle industry than me. So that's usually who the readily available people. So
That's true.
But other than that, just, looking at other people's work and things like that too. A big thing for me in the last 5 years, I've done a lot of repair work too. That'll teach you a ton. Things of you go through other people's saddles and other people's work, you can see things that you can improve on or you could make better or things like that. It just teaches you a lot. Just the basics of the saddle, how they're built. So anyways, that's another good tool is, repair work and things like that too. So
just pay attention as you're deconstructing.
Yep.
Okay.
So
That's great. I know that there's probably a lot more to learn and repair than there is in just doing it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that's great. Speaking of learning and your learning process through these 5 years, now you are an instructor, a teacher on Learn with Illume. What classes have you been able to teach?
There's been a couple. We've done rawhide bindings. We've done swell bags. Just did one on plate rigging. I can't think of any others off the top of my head.
Yeah, you've done some on some tool.
Yep, we did some tool tips, and we've done tapaderos. Forgot about them.
Do you ever see yourself teaching?
I
Or was
do.
that did that just come out of the blue, or and it worked, or were you 5 years ago? You're like, I've been in this for 2 weeks. I'm an expert, and I'm going to show somebody else.
Yep. So teaching's always been a thing for me. I can tell you, when I lived in St. George and I was little, I thought it was fun to play teacher. So for some reason, there was always something with me about teaching. 5 years ago, I would have never thought about, teaching. I mean, helping other people. But since I've been an instructor with Illume, I've had so much fun with it. I feed off of teaching. So it's been a lot of fun doing that.
If you were having a conversation with somebody that was just about to start on one of your classes, what would be your advice to somebody just getting going?
Just getting going on starting on one of my classes. Probably attention to detail. You don't have to know everything about leatherworking. I've been in those shoes. Just like I said, be a sponge, take in all the info you can. Ask other people, But on those classes, that's the best thing.
Take notes.
Yes, for sure, take notes. Yep. So.
Okay, and what has been the most challenging part of this for you?
In a whole or in just teaching?
I want to hear both.
In a whole?
Yeah.
Well, let's start with teaching. Teaching's making sure that you're confident in what you're doing. Not sounding, got to watch what you say so you don't, get anybody confused or missteps and things like that. Would probably be the big one in teaching. In a whole, I couldn't tell you really. That's a kind of a broad one. Just probably, like I said, actually would probably be in the confidence and, making sure things are done and you're leading the people in the right direction. So.
Yeah. Takes a lot of prep work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You got to think ahead for sure.
Yeah.
Thinking ahead will save you a lot of time. You can also see what the next step is and the outcome of it too if you're thinking ahead, even if you're in one spot of the project,
Yeah.
So
This next generation's coming up, and a lot of the time, I mean, there's these great companies like Burns, but a lot of time these 20 to 30-year-olds are choosing between pursuing these passions of leathercraft or getting a 9 to 5 with a 401k, and it's a big decision. And the only way that that happens is if these older generations pass on their life skills and their craft skills. And so we get that question all the time, like, how do I do this?
Yeah, and if something like that, if you're really passionate about it, it's kind of a dive in head first type deal, like and it'll come to you for sure. It's like I said earlier, it might be a little scary, but once you get going, it'll be okay. Really. So, but if somebody doesn't take it on too, I mean, in retrospect too, with how the world and things are going, the leather industry is, for me, kind of in my eyes, it's almost like a dying breed too. So if we're not passing it on, it won't be here later on,
You see a lot of people hit those creative walls, and the energy's not flowing, and they want to chuck something across the room. And a lot of people get in those slumps, and it's not just momentarily. It can be long-term slumps of creativity. What do you do to keep your creativity flowing or that passion alive?
So on the creativity side, I do run into that a lot.
Yeah.
I have a lot of perfectionist in me. So if something's not working out, I do tend to get a little uppity about it. And, but sometimes you got to walk away for a minute and just take a breather. Ask your peers. There's a lot of info out there. You can look at other people's work, things like that, The passion for me is still alive. Like I obviously am gonna, next time when I come walking back to that project, I'm gonna come at it full bore, or guns a-blazing. But the creativity, you just got to sit back and think about it. I mean, if you have to redraw it, depending on what you're doing, if you're drawing a new, tooling pattern, a new pattern for a saddle, anything like that, step back, take a look at it. You're going to be your biggest judge and your biggest person to criticize your work. And so you need to take, just like I said, a minute and look at it and be like, okay, maybe we can fix this here. Maybe it'll work better this way. Or
what are you doing to kind of keep your mind fresh and that spark? Because it takes a lot.
Yeah. So free time, if I'm not, when I have the free time, I guess to say, because I do have a lot of things I'm doing after work, farming and stuff like that too. Just scrolling through, like I follow a lot of pages. Instagram and actually surprisingly Pinterest is a really good one. You have a lot.
Never heard that from a guy.
Yeah.
Never
Yep,
once.
I'll be the first one to admit it. Pinterest is a good one. You type in leather, leather ideas. Gordon Andrus posts stuff on there. I see a lot of Sage Creek stuff. There's a lot of people out there that post their things that can inspire you to do things like that or try new things, So that would be the thing. I will look through, some of those pages and see what other people are doing, how they're doing it, things like that, to keep kind of the creative juices flowing, or even like trying something. Even at home, I'll still take a piece of leather at home, or I have some at home and try something, and okay, this doesn't work, maybe I can do it a different way. So
yeah.
I'm just,
do you do that? Do you post? I mean, we have students and everybody else that might be looking at your work on your classes. Do you post so that other people can see your creativeness?
I don't currently post a lot.
That's something you want to do?
Yeah, it is actually something I want to do because I think it's really cool, because just for that reason, somebody's, stuck on something, and maybe if they've seen something of what I've done helps them, through their process or creating something, I think that's amazing. But currently right now, it's a lot of the show saddle stuff.
Yeah.
Because I take a lot of pride in it. I think all my saddles I've built, I've posted pictures about, or something in the process, things like that. I've posted on the Illume board, things like that, and asked questions or posted some pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
that's a great forum for people that are, and sometimes you can go on there and be like, I'm stuck. Yeah. Somebody help me.
Yep. Even though I'm a teacher, you'll still, even like if you read through some of the comments on people that are taking the courses, you'll still take something away from them too. It's maybe, it's a different way of doing that. I did it this way on the course, but your students will teach you too, so it is a really good tool.
That's great. What are you looking forward to with teaching, with your personal growth? What are you looking forward to? You have any competitions coming up?
I do. Well, so Sheridan's in May.
Sure.
So we've started that saddle. Kind of getting itchy. I kind of think I want to do 2 this year, but that's a lot of work. I really
More sleepless nights.
3 more sleepless nights. I don't know if I can do that. I'm almost 30 now. You know, that's a little hard on you. When I was 18, maybe.
Yeah.
But we'll for sure do that one. I'm looking at going to Pendleton at the end of the year, so that'll be 2 saddles this year.
That's great.
So on the teaching side of it, getting back in, you know, getting more courses filmed, things like that.
Do you have any courses in mind for what's coming next?
I haven't really. So I actually have thought about doing the one that I'm really excited about is building a custom soft case for a gun.
Gotcha.
I've only seen
For a handgun or a rifle?
So I actually was on Pinterest
Uh-huh.
and I've seen one built and I cannot find the one that I had found.
Yeah.
And it was a rifle case and it was wool lined and really nicely tooled on the outside and things like that. I did try to build one before Christmas as a last minute Christmas gift for a handgun and it wasn't quite what I wanted. So, but either way, a handgun or a rifle case would be really cool. Something
That would
custom
be
like
cool.
that. Because I know those things, you know, people have those from their grandpa that they bought.
Yeah.
Or their great grandpa. They last forever, you know?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it'd be really cool to do something like that. Saddle wise, I mean, I really don't have anything quite yet, but it'll come. We'll get something new on a saddle.
So stay tuned to see what you've got next.
Yep. It might be a minute, but it'll be there.
That's cool. That's really cool. So one last question for me is something that you know now that you wish you knew 5 years ago when you got started, or better yet, wish you knew when you were 13 years old and that light bulb clicked and you found your passion in your grandpa's shop and with that tandy kit. What is something you know now you wish you knew at 13?
You know what? This would be a grandpa thing, but he was told me all my life, you know, when I started in this, just shut your mouth and pay attention. Because back then, you know, that's really, you know, but on the other hand of that, on the flip side of questions too, ask a lot of questions, but if somebody's showing you something, really fine tune into that and focus, you know. I really wish I would have done that when I was, you know, 13 and stuff. Like, oh, it's cool, I'm doing leather work, I can do this. Well, if I would have just paid a little bit more attention and, you know, shut my mouth a little bit, it probably would have turned out a little bit better. Honestly,
That's probably
you know,
good advice
because,
for everyone everywhere.
Yeah, because it's like the biggest thing is like just be a sponge. Just don't ever stop and not. To me, if you stop taking information, you're not growing.
Yeah.
So the more you can soak it in like a sponge and take it for what it is and learn from it is your biggest teacher and type thing. You'll grow from it personally and through your career in it too. So
That's great. Just be humble and take it all in.
Yep, exactly.
That's great advice, probably for everyone everywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
I like that. Be a sponge.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you so much
for
taking the time to talk with me and to share your experiences. It was very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice chatting with you.
Been a lot of fun.
And thank you guys for tuning in and watching us here on our channel. Make sure you like and share our page and stay tuned. There will be more interviews like this coming and stay tuned with our learning platform to see what Zach teaches next.